and two that you live with.
Hello and welcome to my channel, A&A Hippie Witch. Today we're going to be talking about John Bonham. John Henry Bonham. May 31st, 1948 to September 25th, 1980. Was an English musician who was the drummer of the rock band Zed Zeppelin. Noted for his speed, power, fast single-footed kick drumming, distinctive sound, and feel for groove. He is regarded as one of the greatest and most influential drummers in music history. Here's a picture. Bonham was born in 1948 in Redditch, Worcester, and took up drums at the age of 5, receiving a snare drum at the age of 10 and a full drum set at the age of 15. He played with multiple local bands, both at school and following school, eventually playing in 2 different bands with Robert Plant. Following the demise of the Yardbirds in 1968, Bonham joined Plant guitarist Jimmy Page and bass guitarist John Paul Jones to form Zed Zeppelin. With the band, Bonham mostly showcased a hard-hitting hard rock style, but also handled funk and Latin-influenced grooves in later releases. Like Keith Moon of The Who, Bonham's drum set grew in size following the band's 1969 concert tours. Including congas or timpani and a gong. His drum solo, Moby Dick, was featured on the group's second album and was a staple of their concerts. Often lasting over 20 minutes. Outside of Zed Zeppelin, Bonham played drums for other artists including the Family Dog, Screaming Lord Sledge, Zulu, Jimmy Stevens, and Wigs. Bonham played with Zed Zeppelin until his death at the age of 32 in September 1980, following a day of heavy drinking. The surviving members disbanded the group out of respect for Bonham after his death. A mostly self-taught drummer, Bonham was influenced by Max Roach, Gene Capper, and Buddy Rich. He was close with Vanilla Fudge drummer Carmen Appice, who introduced him to Ludwig drums, while he was primarily known for his hard rock style during his lifetime. His reputation as a drummer has grown beyond that genre. Following his death, he has influenced various drummers, with just a few prominent examples including Dave Goliath, Near Pruitt, Chad Smith, and Dave Lombardo. He was posthumously introduced into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1995 as a member of Zed Zeppelin. In 2016, Rolling Stones named him the greatest drummer of all time. Biography: Early years. John Henry Bonham was born on the 31st of May 1948 in Redditch, Worcester, England. To Joan and Jack Bonham, he began learning to play drums at age 5, making a kit of containers and coffee tins, imitating his idols, Max Roach, Gene Kappa, and Buddy Rich. His mother gave him a snare drum when he was 10. He received his first drum kit, a Premier Procession set, from his father at age 15. Bonham never took formal drum lessons. Although he received advice from other British drummers while at school between 1962 and 1963, Bonham joined the Blue Star Trio and Gary Levine and the Avengers. Bonham attended Lodge from Secondary Modern School, where his headmaster wrote in his report that he would either end up a dustman or a millionaire. After leaving school in 1964, he worked for his father as an apprentice carpenter. Between drumming for local bands in 1964, Bonham joined his first semi-professional band, Terry Webb and the Spiders, and met his future wife, Cat Phillips. Around the same time, he played in other Birmingham bands, such as the Nicky James Movement and the Senators. With whom he made a single, She's a Mod, in 1964 at Hallock and Taylor Studios in Birmingham. Bonham took up drumming full-time 2 years later. He joined A Way of Life. After the band's demise, Bonham joined a blues group called Crawling Kingsnakes, whose lead singer was Robert Planet. In 1967, Bonham agreed to return to A Way of Life while keeping in touch with Plant. Plant formed Band of Joy and chose Bonham as the drummer. The band recorded demos but no album. In 1968, American singer Tim Rose toured Britain and asked Band of Joy to open his concerts. When Rose returned months later, Bonham joined Rose's band. Bonham may have played on the April 1968 recording of Donovan's Hurdy-Gurdy Man, although this is disputed, as discussed in the article for the song. Zed Zeppelin. After the breakup of the Yardbirds in July 1968, guitarist Jimmy Page formed another band and recruited Plant, who in turn suggested Bonham. Page's choices for drummer included Procol Harum's B.J. Wilson and Paul Francis. However, on scene, Bonham drummed for Tim Rose at a club in Hampstead, North London, In July 1968, Page and manager Peter Grant were convinced he was perfect for the project, first known as the New Yardbirds and later as Zed Zeppelin. Bonham was initially reluctant. Grant sent 8 telegrams to Bonham's pub, the 3 men in a boat, in Warsaw, which were followed by 40 telegrams from Grant. Bonham was also receiving more luxurious offers from Joe Crocker and Chris Furlow, but he accepted Grant's offer. He recalled, "I decided I liked their music better than Crocker's or Furlow's." During Zed Leplin's first tour of the United States in December 1968, Bonham became friends with Vanilla Fudge's drummer, Cameron Apice. Apice introduced him to Ledwick drums, which he then used for the rest of his career. His hard hitting was evident on many Zed Zeppelin songs, including Moby Dick, Zed Zeppelin 2 Immigrant Song, Zed Zeppelin 3 When the Levee Breaks, Zed Zeppelin 5, Kashmir, Physical Graffiti, The Ocean, Houses of the Holly, and Archive's Last Stand. Presence Page let Bonham use a double bass drum in an early demo of Communication Breakdown, but scratched the track because of Bonham's overuse of it. The studio recording of Misty Mountain Hop captures his dynamics, similarly exhibited on No Quarter. On cuts from later albums, Bonham handled funk and Latin-influenced drumming. Songs like Royal Orleans and Fool in the Rain are examples, respectively displaying a New Orleans shuffle and a halftime shuffle. His drum solo first entered Pot's Delight, later Moby Dick. First entitled Pot's Delight, later Moby Dick, often lasted 20 minutes in some sections. He used his bare hands on his drums to imitate the sound of a phased hand drum. Baham's sequel of the for the film, the song remains the same. Featured him in a drag race at Santa Pod Raceway to the sound of his solo Moby Dick in Zed Zeppelin tours after 1969. Bohan included congas, orchestra tambourine, and a symphonic gong. Other projects. In 1969, Boham appeared on The Family Dog's A Way of Life with Page and Zeppelin bassist John Paul Jones. Bonham also played for Screaming Lord Stetch on Lord Stetch and Heavy Friends in 1970. He played on Lulu's 1971 single Everybody Clap, written by Maurice Gibb and Barry Loro. In 1972, he played on Maurice Gibb produced album by Jimmy Stevens called Don't Freak Me Out. In the UK, and paid my dues in the US, credited as Gemini, his star sign. He drummed for his Birmingham friend Roy Wood on Keep Your Hands on the Wheel. Substantially released on his 1979 album On the Road Again, and on Wings' album Back to the Egg on the tracks Rock is Still a Theme and So Glad to See You Here. He was also featured on Paul McCartney and Wings' Beware My Love demo version, first recorded in 1975. It remained unreleased until 2014, with the release of the album Wings at the Speed of Sound box set. Bonham was the best man of Black Sabbath's Tony Lamone at his wedding ceremony. In 1974, Bonham appeared in the film Son of Dracula, playing drums in Count Don's Harry Nelson band. Bonham appeared in a drum lineup including Keith Moon and Ringo Starr on the soundtrack album. Death. On the 24th of September 1980, Bonham was picked up by Led Zeppelin assistant Rex King to attend rehearsals at Barry Studios for a tour of North America to begin the 17th of October in Montreal. It was the band's first tour since 1977. During the journey, Bonham asked to stop for breakfast, where he drank 4 quadruple vodka screwdrivers, 16 shots between the 400 and 560 milliliter. He then continued to drink heavily after arriving at rehearsals. The band stopped rehearsing late in the evening and then went to Page's house, the old mill house in Carmarthenshire. After midnight on the 25th of September, Bonham fell asleep. Someone took him to bed and placed him on his side. Led Zeppelin tour manager Benji LaFever and Jones found him unresponsive the next afternoon. Bonham was later pronounced dead at 32 years old. The inquest on the 27th of October 1980 showed that in 24 hours Bonham had consumed around 40 shots, 1 to 1.4 liters of 40% ABV vodka, after which he vomited and choked, a condition known as pulmonary aspiration. The finding was accidental death. A post-mortem found no other recreational drugs in Bonham's body. According to Rolling Stone, Bonham had recently overcome a heroin problem and was taking an unspecified medication for anxiety and depression at the time of his death. Bonham's remains were cremated and his ashes interred on the 12th of October 1980 at Rushock Parish Church, Westchester. Rather than replace Bonham, Zed Zeppelin chose to disband out of respect for their deceased bandmate. They said in a press release on the 4th of December 1980, "We wish it to be known that the loss of our dear friend and the deep respect we have for his family, together with a sense of undivided harmony felt by ourselves and our manager, have led us to decide that we could not continue as we were." It was signed Zed Zeppelin. Bonham had a younger brother, Mick Bonham, 1950 to 2000. A disc jockey, author, and photographer, and a younger sister, Deborah Bonham, born 1962, a singer-songwriter. Bonham was married to Pat Phillips, and the couple had two children, Zoe Bonham, born the 10th of June, 1975, is a singer-songwriter who appears at Zed Zeppelin conventions. Jason Bonham, born the 15th of July, 1966, is a drummer who has recorded or toured with Sammy Hagar and the Circle, Black Country County Communion, UFO, Foreigner, and Bonham. Jason played with Zeppelin at their Atlantic Records 40th anniversary reunion show on the 15th of May, 1988, and again on the 10th of December 2007 at the Imhot Indigen Tribute Concert. A 1973 film clip of 7-year-old Jason playing drums appears in the Zed Zeppelin film. The song remains the same. Zoe and Jason appeared at the introduction ceremony for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1995 with the surviving members of Zed Zeppelin. Bonham's mother, June, died, aged 85 to 86, on the 10th of February 2011. She sang for the Zimmers, a 40-member band set up as a result of a BBC documentary on the treatment of the elderly. Legacy awards and commendations. Bonham has been described by AllMusic as one of the most important, well-known, and influential drummers in rock. Bonham was ranked number one on Classic Rock's 2005 list of 50 greatest drummers in rock, and Modern Drummer describes him as the greatest rock and roll drummer in history. Adam Bondafuco, managing editor of Modern Drummer, writes, "If the king of rock and roll was Elvis Presley, then the king of rock drumming was certainly John Bonham." In 2007, Stylist magazine rated Boham #1 of 50 great rock drummers, as did Gigwise.com in 2008. And in September 2008, Boham topped the Blabbermouth.net's list of rockers fans once brought back to life, ahead of Elvis Presley and Freddie Mercury. Rhythm magazine voted him the greatest drummer ever, topping the readers' poll to determine the 50 greatest drummers of all time in October 2009. At the end of the BBC Two series, I'm in a rock and roll band, on the 5th of June 2010, Boham was named Best Drummer of All Time. A Rolling Stone readers poll where he led the list by a significant margin in 2011, and in 2016 the same magazine ranked him as the greatest drummer of all time in a list of 100 greatest drummers of all time. According to the Los Angeles Times, even after all these years, Boham still ranks as the best drummer of all time, mentioning that his beat still bangs like a mofo. Nobody else has brought quite that balance of muscle, groove, and showmanship. Thank you for watching this video, and peace out to the next one.